Yeah, at your practices you can just go out and play bocce, and we do eventually get better, but there are things that you can do to enhance your coaching techniques and our skills. Okay, we can practice long ball throwing, short ball throwing, target throwing. There's a lot of strategy to bocce, and sometimes there can be no strategy. If all I understand is that I need to get my ball closer to this than yours, that's enough. But then you're going to have athletes that are going to totally understand strategy, and they deserve your best on it. Sometimes we'll just come and we got all this space, we'll play free range bocce. Just take the polina and a ball and a partner and just throw around, and you're just trying to get whoever's closest. And then whoever's closest can throw the next polina, and they get a little exercise, they get a little practice on terrains. So we just call it free range bocce. Like I said, you just take the polina and each player take one ball and roam. Okay. I don't know if you guys had winter like we did. I assume y'all did. We didn't get outside until 2 weeks before district, and actually it snowed after we did our. We need to talk about your qualifying scores before we go any further, and we're going to start to play. When you're submitting scores for your athletes, how you do that? You do that. 30, 40, 50. Alright, so what you do, you take one of these handy dandy flags that comes with the set, or you steal one from the power company, but please put it back. And I also suggest that you spray paint the spot, but in my past experience, I had a couple of athletes that were very concrete people. You know, you didn't tell them that you're seeing pink elephants, because there are no pink elephants. So if I spray painted a spot on the ground, that was not what he was supposed to do. He's supposed to throw at this, put this down there, but what you're measuring from is your mark, okay, or that flag. What you do is you put the mark, you put your flag at the 30, right in the middle, and you have the athletes throw all 8 balls. And then you measure the closest 3 and measure them in metrics. Then you go to the 40? Yes. Yeah, pretty good guess. All right, and you throw all 8 balls. And you take the top 3, and then you go to the 50. And you throw all 8 balls, measure the top 3. That's your entry score. You add those 9 scores together, that's your entry score. All right? Please try to do that more than once on each individual. All right? Those of you that are from the north and are subject to longer winters, you might want to actually try to get a few scores in the fall, just to be a little ahead of the weather. Our guys were playing with mittens and hats, and we were threatening to put snowshoes on them when we were trying to get our qualifying scores, because we still had snow on the ground. We were setting the courts up and running a couple of people out at a time and sending them back in to warm up while we were doing our qualifying scores. So it could be rough. So you may want to do some kinds of preliminary scores in the fall if you have the luxury of doing that. Your athletes should be evaluating their opponents quickly in a game and figuring out if they have a long game or a short game. All right? And if they've only got a short game and I got a long game, where do I want to throw the polina? Long. All right? So losing the power of the polina is losing strategy. So if I throw all 3 and I don't get to do it, which probably suggests I only have a short game, and my opponent notices that, I'd be coaching my player to throw long. And again, that's not mean. It's the game. It's strategy. It's the game. Any of you that are familiar with curling and I gather shuffleboard. I don't know anything about shuffleboard, but I do know curling. Very similar. It's kind of like, you know, having the ball in the house, and the ideal would be that you set a block. If you get first throw of the ball, you want to try and put your ball right in front of the Polina first, because then what that forces your opponent to do is try to get around you, and chances are they knock you closer. So that's a little bit of strategy if you find that you have somebody that's got a fabulous ability to aim, and you will find those out. Correct. Right. You are with doubles and with team and with unified. Partners are allowed, teammates are allowed to discuss plays, but once I get on the court, okay, all talk stops. So Mark and I could talk back here about how we think we could play that, but as soon as I step on, he's got to stop telling me what he thinks to do. And you will see that a lot with a vision impaired athlete with a partner. The partner will help them line up. I kind of disagree with that. They can verbally tell them. They are not allowed to physically.
Sometimes they're inside the court as long as they're not interfering with, you know, because 9 times out of 10 somebody's going to scoot as close to that line as they can.
Like Karen was saying, can an athlete throw from back here? Absolutely. I had an athlete that had she was so strong, she just didn't have any speed control at first, okay? So we had her backing up, and then what we eventually got her to do, might as well give you a suggestion on if you have an athlete like that, what we did with her was force her to exaggerate here, and she had to drag. And had to drag that way, and that slowed the ball down because she was making more contact with the ball. One more little tip, and then let's play for a little while. There is a strategy called lofting. I moved here from Galena. There is no flat land in Galena. Okay, our court went like this, and then headed for the river. Yeah, get out, because you're gonna get hurt. Have no control. All right, so we do something called lofting. All right, and lofting is legal as long as the ball is released in this plane here, and it's an underhand throw. I have no idea where it is. Just give me a heads up and then get out of the way. All right, that's fine. Now you can. What happens with that lofting is that if you have an uneven terrain, you have some hill, and you're not always going to have the beauty of the football field that the Area 16 tournament is on. You're not always going to have the soccer field like state tournament at ISU, where it's level. One of the tournaments that we used to play in, one of the courts went like this. So there was a drop-off in the foul box. It's the same for everybody, so it's not unfair. Okay? Lofting generally stops the ball from rolling. The other thing that it can compensate for is for long grass. Okay? If the grass is thick and longer like this is, and I'm rolling the ball, it slows down a lot faster.
You saw that when Mark and she were playing from this end. Mark was rolling more than she was, and his wasn't getting close enough. So instead, getting it up off the ground, okay, and that is legal. Lofting is legal as long as it's under control. You get somebody that's doing the unlimited arc softball pitch and they don't know where it's going to land, then they're going to call it. Okay? But as long as it's still underhand and it's released in here, that's a legal throw. So we just set up some different situations and we just practice those. We'll practice just lofting. We'll practice rolling. If we can find an area that's, really, really low cut or something. One thing that we'll do too is we'll practice on this court. There's a divot right here. When your Polina or your bocce ball gets in here,
or you have to roll across it, you have to account for that. So we'll work with just a spot on the court that's bad like that, because when you go to competition, unless you're on some kind of a like an AstroTurf or something like that, you're going to have that. And even on the AstroTurf, you're going to have some imperfections. So we'll actually practice those. Or if there's a mound that they have to play over, we'll set up a situation around that. So, any questions with that? And I've got a sheet of stuff I can send to you. We can email to you with that. That's a quick down and dirty on it. Trying to think what else. Some things that came up in our game. We talked about putting the Polina next to the sideline, and then the opponents inevitably roll most of their bocce balls out of bounds. As soon as I said that, we did it on our court. What the opposing team did, and I'm not sure if this is purposeful or not, but it was actually the exact strategy you'd want to use. The blue team put the Polina there. They put their bocce ball right here. Okay, so the red team came up. They didn't get any closer, but they didn't send theirs out of bounds. They actually set up a nice little defensive perimeter around that one blue ball. So if they had tried to shoot for the Polina straight out, they probably would have rolled it out of bounds, left the whole court for the blue team to score 4 points. But they were smart about it. They left all their red balls in, but they made kind of a little barrier. So then when the blue team got up, they either had to go over the red team's ball, or try to get it around it some way, and they ended up, even though blue still got the point, they didn't get 4 points. So sometimes you have to think of defense not in, I'm going to score points, but I'm going to keep them from scoring any more than possible. So those guys did a great job defending that.
Other things that we've done, target practice. If you're indoors, towels work, otherwise masking tape, just tossing the ball to try for your accuracy. We've got a bigger target, then it gets smaller, then it gets smaller. We've got those handouts. That particular handout is on your CD. There's just situations. We've done it like you would do station training. So you set up the different plays, stay on that court and practice for a while. It's really nice if you have the luxury of a coach per station to do that. We talked about weather being a factor. This is called boho bocce. It's a boiled wool ball. So it's friendly to, technically they say it's friendly to furniture. I wouldn't give it to children, but it's a boiled wool. It won't hurt floor finish. I wouldn't hesitate to play it on Milliken's finished court. We have sandbag. They don't roll true, but they at least give you more. Those, if you're playing on a wood floor, of course, are going to roll forever. But what does that teach them? It teaches them the control. Okay, they understand that if they throw too hard, it's going to go downtown. So our guys have gotten good playing that indoors.
And then we'll actually use the sandbag ones on another court, and we'll switch them around when they play, because those you actually inside have to loft more to get them where you want them. So they get experience both ways. They get the ones that roll really easy where they have to use more control, and then they use the sandbag ones, where they have to loft them actually and place them, because they're not going to roll.
So like both things.
Yeah.